All right, so in this chapter we are working in fractions. Let's turn all these off really quick. Go to page 2. All right, what is the greatest common factor of 45 and 33? So if we break this down, we can have 45, and we could say, well, that's 9 times 5, and that would be a 3 times a 3, and then this is just a 5 and a 1. And so our biggest factor here is we have a 5, but we got to see what's in common with our other. So if we do 33, that's a 3 times an 11. And so if we look for out of these two, 11 we can only break down to 1 and 11. 3 is a 3 and a 1. So we get to our prime numbers, and 3 is common between both of those. So the largest number that's common between both of these is the 3. That's our greatest common factor. Our next problem, it asks us to write in simplest form the fraction 33 over 45. So we could write it into the decomposed pieces. We could have, so for our 45, we could write that as 3 times 3 times 5 times a 1. And then here we could do a 1 times a 3 times a 1 times an 11. And we can cancel out a 3 on the top and bottom, and we're left with 1 times 1 times 11 over 3 times 5 times 1, or 15. And we can check this on our calculator. We can write this as 33 and then use the fraction button over 45, hit equals, and we get 11 over 15. And so we can use either value with those, either method and approach with it. On here we want to find what is the least common multiple. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here. So what is the least common multiple of 3, 5, and 12? And so what we're looking for is if we just write out the factors of 3. So we could do a 3 times 1 is 3. So for our 3 factors, 3 times 1, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times 6 is 18, 3 times 7 is 21, and so on. With our 5, our factors, we could do 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, 20, 25, 30, and we could keep going on until we get 5 times 12, which would be 60. With 3, we can keep going on until we get 3 times 20, which would be 60. And then with our factor 12, well, we could do 12 times 1 is 12, 24, 36, 48, and then we get to 60. And so when we say the least common multiple, what numbers can we multiply them by themselves until we get to a common value on this? In this case, we want it to be 60. All right. Okay, so where you use least common multiple is when we are multiplying fractions, or we're trying to add fractions or find common denominators. So in this case, we want to find the equivalent fractions with the least common multiple. So if we have 1/3, and we know that we want to get to the same number with all of these, the 1/3, the 2/5, and then the 7 over 12, we basically want to get in our denominator a something over 60. So in this case, we're going to do our 12 times 5, and we're going to just do 5 over 5. So we're multiplying the value by 1. For our 2/5, we're going to multiply it by our factor to get us into 60, and that's going to be a 12. So a 12 over a 12. And then for our 3, that's going to be a 20 over a 20. 5 times 12 gets us to 60, and 12 times 5 gets us to 60. And then for our numerators, that would be, here we can get 1 times 20 over 60, plus 2 times 12, which is 24 over 60, plus 7 times 5, which is 35 over 60. Okay, on here we want to convert to a mixed number. Or we're converting from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So we can break this apart as 4 plus 2 over 3. And then we want to get a common denominator of 3. So we can take 4 over 1 and we can multiply it by 3 over 3 plus our 2 over 3. This gets us 12 over 3 plus 2 over 3. It gets us to a 14 over 3. An alternative way that you might have seen in your other math classes, you could take 3 times 4 plus 2, or you can do 4 times 3 plus 2, and that gets us to 14 over 3. Converting from a mixed number to its simplest form. So in this, we're going to use our calculator. On our calculator, we're going to turn it on, we're going to hit the clear button, and we're going to do 27, and then the fraction button, and then 12. And it's going to break it down similar to what we've done in our math on paper, but here we get 2 and 1, so 2 whole units and 1/4 of a unit. Number 7, it asks us what the reciprocal is. That basically we're going to take this and we're going to flip it, or if we have the 15 over 17, we are putting that whole thing to the -1 power, which entails flipping, which gives us a 17 over a 15. Okay, we'll switch pages. Okay, number 8. It asks us for the reciprocal of 3 and 5/8. So we want to get this to an improper fraction first. So we're going to take over our 8, we're going to have 3 times 8, and then we're going to add 5 to it. And 3 times 8 plus 5, we can say 3 times 8 plus 5, and get a total of 29 over 8. And then we want the reciprocal of that. So 29 over 8, we will invert it or take the reciprocal, and that gets us 8 over 29. For our next problem, they want us to write the sum as an improper fraction. So we're going to add all these up. We could go back to our original problem, but we're going to use our calculator here instead. So we are going to take 1 over 3 plus 2 over 5 plus 7 over 12, add them together, and that gets us our mixed number of 1 and 19 over 60. If we want to write it as an improper fraction, that is going to be 1 times 60 plus 19 over 60. So if we do 60 plus 19, we get a 79 over 60. So in this case, we just are doing our mixed numbers, so we can add those fractions again, and we get our 1 and 19 over 60. For our next question, number 11, they want us to perform the operation and simplify. Because these have a common denominator, we could do the 2 over 7 plus the 4 over 7. We can combine them to 2 plus 4 over that same 7, and then that gets us 6 over 7. On your calculator, you could 2 over 7 plus 4 over 7, and you're going to get the same value. Okay, so on problem number 12, they're asking us to do subtraction of fractions. Because they have a common denominator, we can take the 5 over 3 minus the 5 over 8 minus the 3 over 8, and we'll keep that same denominator. We can collapse that and keep the 5 minus 3 on the top, which would give us a 2 over 8, and then we could simplify that to a 2 times 1 over a 2 times 4. And we could cancel out the 2's on the top and bottom and get 1/4. Alternatively, on our calculator, we could do 5 over 8 minus 3 over 8, and we'll get the 1/4. Okay, number 13 asks us to multiply the fractions. So in this case, we'll just we've got the 2 over 3 times the 5 over 4, and we can basically establish a full division line, and it'll become the top numbers 2 times 5 over the bottom numbers 3 times 4, and this gets us 10 over 12. And we could reduce this or decompose it to 2 times 5 over 6 times 2, and we could cancel the 2's on the top and bottom and get 5 over 6 for our total value. On our calculator, we can operate it the same way. We can do 2 over 3 times 5 over 4, and we get our 5/6 value with that. Okay, we're going to turn the page. Okay, on question number 14, we're doing division of fractions. So when we have a division of fraction, you're going to basically do a keep, swap, swap. So keep, swap, swap. We're going to keep the 4/5. We're going to swap the multiply, or the divide, to a multiply or a times. And then our swap or flip, we'll flip that to 7 over 2. We'll get the reciprocal. Then from here, we can take 4 times 7 over 5 times 2, and we're going to get 28 over 10. On our, if we're going to reduce this, we can say, well, that's 2 times 14 over 2 times 5, and we can cancel out the 2's and get 14 over 5. And then we could convert that to a mixed number if we didn't want it to be in an improper fraction. On the calculator, we can perform it the same way. We can do 4 over 5, use our division symbol, and then 2 over 7 equals, and we get 2 and 4/5, which if we write that out, 2 and 4/5, if we multiply that through, that's 2 times 5 plus 4 over 5, which would then get us our 14/5 as an improper fraction. Okay, on number 15, we're going to add the numbers together and then simplify it. There's a couple things that are useful on this. We could break it apart as 2 plus 1/5 plus 3 plus 2/5, and we could break apart the whole versus a fraction, and we can combine these two, so that gets us 5 plus 1/5 plus 2/5, and that would get us 5 plus 3/5. We could write that as a mixed number, 5 and 3/5. On our calculator, we could solve it similarly, so we could do 2 fraction 1 fraction 5, so 2 whole units, 1/5 of a fraction, plus 3 fraction 2 fraction 5, and we're going to get that same value of 5 and 3/5 with it. Subtraction, you can work similarly. So we could take 7 plus 1/3 minus 4 minus 2/3. And we could combine these two. 7 minus 4 gets us 3, and we're left with plus 1/3 minus 2/3. And we could combine this and get 3 minus 1/3, which we could equate to 2 and 2/3. On our calculator, we can perform it similarly. So 7 fraction 1 fraction 3 minus 4 fraction 2 fraction 3, and we get 2 and 2/3 for our result. Okay, for multiplication, if we were to do it by hand, it's easiest to get it into an improper fraction. So we could do 6 times 2 plus 1 over 2, and then we're going to times that by 3 times 4 plus 1 over 4, which results in 12 13 over 2 times 12 13 over 4. And we could multiply it across. 13 times 13 gets us 169 over 8. And then we could reduce that to a mixed number. Here on our calculator, I'm going to just type in 6 fraction 1 fraction 2 times 3 fraction 1 fraction 4. And I'm going to get my total of 21 and an eighth. One other way we can change a mixed or an improper fraction into a mixed number is we could take our 169 fraction 8 and put it in there, and that'll break it down to a mixed number as well. Okay, question number 18. We're going to do division. So this one we're going to just go straight with our calculator. 2 fraction 3 divided by 5 fraction 1 fraction 3, and we get a end value of 1/2. Number 19. We need to get a common denominator. So I've got 5 over 3 plus 1 over 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both equations by 1. But instead of 1, I'm going to write it as a fraction. And I'm going to use the denominator of the other side to get myself a common denominator. So I'm multiplying both sides by 1, which doesn't change the value of the equation. And it allows me to multiply these through. So I get 4 times 5, which is 20 over 12, plus 1 times 3, which is 3 over 4 times 3, which is 12. And then I can combine those and get myself a value of 23 over 12. Then I could reduce it and make it a mixed number. With the calculator, I just can type it in, my 5 fraction 3 plus 1 fraction 4, add them together, and I get 1 and 11 over 12. And realize I could multiply this through to get it back to the other route. I could do 1 times 12 plus 11 over 12, which becomes 12 plus 11, or 23 over 12, which gets us back to our original problem. Okay, we're going to turn the page. So question number 20 asks us to simplify, and we're going to use our calculator to process through it. So we've got 7 over 8 minus 2 over 3, and I get 5 over 24. The next one, we're going to do the operations. So we can take 15 over 8 times 4 over 5. And we get a total of 1.5. For number 22, I'm going to show you just a few things that will help us shortcut it by hand. If we have 9 over 8 and we're dividing it by 3/16, so we're going to change division to a multiply, and then we're going to flip, so we get 16 over 3. And realize if I decompose this, that's 3 times 3 times 2 times 8 over 1 times 8 times 3 times 1. We have an 8 that we can cancel, and a 3 that we can cancel. And so we're left with the total of 3 times 2, or 6 over 1, which would be 6. Checking on our calculator, 9 over 8 divided by 3 over 16. And once again, we get that same value. Here we could add up the whole numbers. So 2 plus 5 plus 4, that gets us 11. Plus our fractions, 3 over 4, 1 over 2, 1 over 3. And we could add these up by hand or with our calculator. I'm just going to use our calculator. I'm going to plug it in the whole thing to show the process. So 2 fraction 3 fraction 4 plus 5 over 1 over 2 plus 4 over 1 over 3. And we get our grand total of 12 and 7/12. For our next problem, we're going to subtract the values. So if we take 5 over 8 and we're subtracting 3 over 4, we get negative 1/8. Here, if we're multiplying across, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 6 is 12, so 1/12 for problem number 25.